This is the Rickenbacker 4003 electric bass, and y'all, this is just such a masterful instrument through and through. The playability, the feel, the tones are so full, punchy, spanky. Is that really a term, I guess? Anyway, the tone is just all over the map because of how versatile it is and really how rock solid it is through and through. No matter where you have your knob set, no matter what amp you have it plugged into, it just sounds fantastic. And it's one of those things that after wanting to play one in depth for so long and finally being able to, I just truly appreciate the amount of craftsmanship that has gone into this instrument. And honestly, it's probably one of the greatest basses I've ever played. So Rickenbacker, this is a brand I've never had the pleasure of actually playing before, but I've just known what they've looked like and apparently have known what they sound like before because they've been used on God knows how many records over the decades by bassists such as Geddy Lee, Paul McCartney, Lemmy, Phil Lynott, Cliff Burton, Chris Squire, and more. It's just really insane to me that I've never played one of these before, but I've heard them for so long throughout my life. And now that I've actually gotten to play one, I get it. I get the hype. I get why they're so highly regarded. I absolutely understand it and I get it. And now I feel like I'm just a Rickenbacker fanboy too because I absolutely love this bass. And what's crazy to me is before I'd actually played this 4003, I didn't really know like a whole bunch about them. I knew they had sort of the stereo output, that they had a really good dry sound to them and everything, but it was something that I never really just paid attention to. But I guess I kind of thought there was more of like a mysticism about it. There was something more grandiose. But really, this is such a straightforward and simple instrument that it makes perfect sense as to why it stood the test of time for so long. But before we dig into this 4003, I want to give a special thank you to Sweetwater for sponsoring this video and sending this Rickenbacker for me to check out. Now, of course, with any other sponsored content that's on my channel, this has absolutely nothing to do with what I feel about this bass, how I talk about it, or any of the sounds in it either. I just really love collaborating with the Sweetwater guys for different videos, and as well as they just have some incredible perks like their 55-point inspection on every instrument, as well as the candy. You gotta love the candy. But thank y'all so much, Sweetwater, for sponsoring today's video, and yeah, let's just jump right into it. So starting with the body, I think this is one of the things that we all know about Rickenbackers. They're so weird, but they're so classic at the same time. They seem so normal, but so abnormal at the same time. It's kind of crazy because I feel this bass is just in such a beautiful position of being classic, but also being something that looks like it's out of the future too. And I feel that it's something that will forever stand the test of time in terms of looks, because I absolutely love the look of this bass. It's just so big, so in your face, but at the same time, it's something that's like, damn, that just looks classy too. Now, essentially what Rickenbackers are, is I didn't really know this beforehand, it's just a hunk of maple, and that really shows just because it has a really good weight to it, as well as a nice and bright tone too. Then the finish for this one is a matte black that I think looks absolutely gorgeous. As someone that hates having fingerprints all over his basses, it's something that's really nice to just have a nice flat matte black finish on it that just looks so good. For the bridge, this is Rickenbacker's own bridge, and I think that they redesigned this a few years ago as well. I know there's a lot of controversy, I guess, over the bridge and how some people just instantly say the second you buy a Rickenbacker, replace the bridge. Whereas with this, I feel like it's been great so far. I replaced the strings on it and it's done a fantastic job. Any adjustments I've needed to make have been super easy too. So I'm assuming it was an old model of the bridge that people mostly talk about, but I could just be out of the loop for as far as I know. For your electronics, you have two single coil pickups. The neck one definitely has a much darker, more round tone, while the bridge has a very bright and very punchy tone to it. Now, of course, when you put them together, you can just have so much fun. But I think there's so much personality in not only each pickup by itself, but together you can make some of the most just best sounds that I've ever heard out of a bass personally. Now, of course, this is super subjective, but mainly as a pick player myself, I have to say that some of the tones I got out of this were just mind blown, because it's just like, yes, this is what a bass should sound like. This is what I should feel while I'm playing this bass, because of how good both pickups sound together. For your controls, you simply have 4 knobs and a 3-way toggle switch. So basically your 2 volume, then 2 tone, as well as just your neck pickup, bridge pickup, and both pickups together. And then for the bridge pickup, your tone knob is actually a push-pull circuit that whenever you pull it, it engages the vintage mode, which just gives it a more classic sound. And of course, there's the classic and coveted dual output on this bass. You can either have it mono standard, or you can use both outputs, where essentially this is the Rico sound method, where basically your neck pickup goes through one output, then your bridge pickup goes through another output, where you can then route these to 2 completely different setups to have just such an amazing wall of stereo sound. Now, I haven't tried it out myself, but it's something that I really want to do in the future though, just because the opportunity is there. And I just cannot imagine how many different options and opportunities there are for completely different kind of soundscapes with this dual output. Then moving up, you have a 20 fret maple neck with a rosewood fretboard that just has such a beautiful feel to it. It's so wide and so flat too. The neck radius itself is only 10 inches, so basically this is probably the flattest bass I've ever played in my life. It just feels like it's so perfectly put together, but it's just so unapologetically itself too. I do have to say that I absolutely love how thick this neck is. It's super wide and just has a really nice feel to it for me personally. Now, if you're a smaller person or you just have smaller hands in general, I have to say that I probably would steer away from one of these, just because even as, like, for me, I'm 5'11", I probably, I guess, normal size hands. It's something where even some of the stretches, I'm like, whoa, this is completely different than, say, you know, a regular jazz bass or something like that, because of how flat and how wide the neck is. Then moving up to the big and bold headstock that Rickenbacker is known for, and their humongous truss rod cover too, you have Shower Deluxe tuners that do their job absolutely perfectly. Now for the pros on the Rickenbacker 4003, I really do love the shape, size, the feeling and weight of this bass. Things are just so intact and they feel amazing. Now that being said too, it's a super flat radius. Again, this bass itself just feels incredibly flat, where you have to play it completely differently than another bass, at least to me personally. Now another pro is just the sounds you can get with it, the tones. My God, just the neck pickup by itself, love it. The bridge pickup by itself, love it. Both pickups together, absolutely love them and adore them. The amount of just incredible tones under this bass are just so infinite to me because of the different ways you're able to play with it. And then of course you have the dual outputs too, to where you can have two completely different setups and just make an incredible tone. And now looking at the cons or the negative things about this bass, I have to say, it's so expensive. Now this is a made in American instrument. They do not have an import line as far as I'm aware of any kind. And this is basically just sort of the standard with Rickenbackers. They're just expensive and that's just how it is. But the quality you get for it just completely overthrows that in my opinion. Because the overall craftsmanship and quality of this instrument are just impeccable to me. But again, this is a very high price tag. Another thing is that this bass can be pretty uncomfortable to play if you have smaller hands. I feel that just because of how flat it is and how big it is too, it can be really difficult for someone with smaller hands to be able to play comfortably. But again, for me personally, it works really well. And so overall for the Rickenbacker 4003, I love this bass. It genuinely is one of the greatest instruments I have ever played. And the tones, I don't think I can just say this enough. The tones are absolutely out of this world. And again, I get it now. I completely understand why so many people love Rickenbackers and praise their names, and they've been doing it for decades. I completely understand now. But of course, with the steep price to get into the club for Rickenbackers, I definitely understand why some people just say, nope, I'm not even gonna deal with that. But let me know what you guys think about the Rickenbacker 4003 and what other basses sort of like this that are just famous by their own right should I be checking out. Thank y'all so much for watching, as always, for watching, commenting, subscribing, follow me on social media, all those things. I truly do appreciate it. And of course, a humongous thank you to my Patreon supporters right here. Mwah, mwah. If you want to be like one of these gorgeous people right here and help support the channel every single month, then go ahead and head on over to my Patreon page. But y'all, thank you again so much for watching as always. And of course, no matter where in the world you are, stay safe, practice that bass, be excellent to each other, and I'll see y'all next time.